Jolien, meestal is het redactieproces van hoe je een gast regelt niet heel erg spannend. Maar in dit geval denk ik dat we er toch even over moeten hebben.
Ja, want we hebben zowaar voor deze gast een kleine stalkactie uitgevoerd op South by Southwest in Londen. Want we zaten in de zaal bij een sessie waar Hamish McKenzie sprak, de co-founder van Substack. Uh-huh. En toen stootte jij mij aan halverwege die sessie en je zei, zullen we anders gewoon kijken of hij in de podcast wil?
Ja, en het is natuurlijk wel zo'n man met woordvoerders en persvoorlichters en een hele drukke agenda en zo. Dus wij zijn na de sessie een beetje blijven hangen bij de uitgang. En jawel, daar kwam Hamish ineens met zijn entourage naar buiten.
Ja, dus wij met het hart in de keel toch maar erop af. Nou, ik had nog geen 2 zinnen gezegd of zijn head of communications, die sprong er al tussen. Maar ze hoorden ons even aan, ze vonden het concept toch wel interessant. En we kregen zowaar een visitekaartje om een afspraak te maken.
Ja, en dus konden we deze week een lijntje leggen met het hoofdkantoor van Substack in San Francisco, om van Hamish te horen hoe hij de toekomst van media ziet. Want daar heeft hij best wel uitgesproken en idealistische ideeën over.
Ja, want Hamish was vroeger dus zelf journalist, maar hij richtte in 2017 Substack op. Een platform waar je je als maker direct kunt laten betalen door je publiek. In de VS is dat al heel groot en in Nederland begint het de laatste maanden ook flink te groeien. Met makers als bijvoorbeeld Doortje Smitshuizen, Mara Grim, Alexander Klupping en Ernst-Jan Fout.
Nou, dat is ontzettend interessant. Mijn naam is Merlijn Passier.
Ik ben Jolien van de Griendt.
En dit zijn de 3 takeaways van onze gast, Substack co-founder Hamish McKenzie. Hamish, welcome to our podcast. We heard you speak in South by Southwest in London. And the word Substack was buzzing all around. Did you notice that too?
I didn't notice that. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for telling me.
Well, there were quite a lot of panelists who mentioned at the end of their talk that they had a Substack, and it was all around. To me, it's quite a new phenomenon, Substack, although you started it in 2017, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're just about 8 years old.
Yeah. And I was curious, what was your experience in London?
I went there partly to speak at South by Southwest, but also to host a series of lunches and dinners and parties with Substack writers and Substack creators, and then have a bunch of meetings. And London, or UK, is our second biggest market. So it was a good opportunity to draw all these things together, and it's a great place. I had a great time there.
And everybody wants to talk to you? Everybody wants to
talk to me, of course. Yeah. I thought it was because of me personally, but it turns out they're just interested in Substack.
Yeah, well, because for the people who aren't familiar with Substack yet, I mean, it's growing in the Netherlands too, but we both use it as well. And we still have to explain sometimes to people, like, what is it? Can you do like the elevator pitch telling us what's so revolutionary about Substack?
Yeah, probably the simplest way to understand it from a user point of view is that it's an app you can go to find great culture and great voices, whether they're in writing or video or audio. And rather than it being monetized by advertising, you can choose to directly support the ones that you value the most with money. And so they can then, the creators, the writers, can then make a good living from doing the work that they really believe in, or just sort of earn pocket money on the side. Some of them even just publish for free because they love this publishing network. And so it's a place now that is a gathering point for the best of online culture.
It's funny to me that you pitch it like that, because I was expecting you were going to say it's a newsletter platform or something like that, but that's in the past then.
That is in the past. I think in the early days, we started describing Substack to people as a place where you can start a paid email newsletter. But the email newsletter part of it was never the whole story. Substack is a place where you publish as a writer or a creator, and it goes, each post you publish goes to email and the web and into the Substack app, and a community can gather around it and comment on it. You might be publishing video, you might be publishing audio, like a podcast. And so even though newsletter was a simple way to understand it in its early days, it's much more like your own personal channel now, and you can do with it what you will. And like a newsletter, you own the relationship with the audience. They live on a mailing list that you can take with you anytime you want. So you actually have less vulnerability to the dynamics of social media where you don't own your audience.
And is that also the biggest difference with traditional social media?
It's one of the key differences. I think the major difference is the system that powers it. So the system that powers the traditional social media ecosystem is looking to get people kind of addicted to these feeds, and they never want people to leave those feeds because their whole business model depends on the capturing and holding of that attention, because then they can serve them more ads. But the Substack system doesn't have anything to do with advertising. It has a lot to do with relationships. And so we're trying to get people into long-term trust relationships, which is another, like an expression of that is a subscription. The only way that Substack makes money is when the writers and the creators who publish on the platform make money. And the only way they make money is through paid subscriptions. And so the whole system is rewarding a different type of behavior and a different type of content than what the old social media system rewards.
So you're an idealist then?
Yeah.
You don't want to make any money?
Well, no, I don't. I think making money it's important because you want to build a good, stable platform. And so the way I see money, as from the Substack point of view, is that it is kind of like the juice that allows the good culture to thrive.
It feels in a way that you're like Robin Hood into the whole Silicon Valley environment of, well, big money makers and high-tech bosses and fuck the big five, something like that.
Robin Hood, maybe we're not stealing from the rich to give to the
no,
but I do, and I'm not. We're not like burning all the old things down, but we do look at it as humanity has sort of spent a while trying to figure out how to best make use of the internet to give power to people, and the generation we're emerging from is not one that has really been giving power to people. They've given people a voice. You can tweet, you can post a photo on Instagram, but the power has still gone to this concentrated class of rulers. And that is not something that is ultimately really very compatible with democracy. And so what we're trying to do is offer a different kind of model that distributes the power. There can be many millions of winners who are creating their own power and their own sort of influence who can succeed with a model like this.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting parts of your model, that the only way for you as a company to make money is to make sure the creators are making money and are happy and have the right tools.
They own everything. They own all their content. They own their mailing list. So they own the audience relationships. And they can leave with that anytime they want. Like they can just do that by clicking a button in Substack.
And I think that brings us to the first takeaway.
I think that we are in the midst of a media transition where power is shifting towards direct relationships with platforms facilitating rather than mediating.
Okay. And why is that power shifting from mass media to direct relationships?
The short and dumb answer is the internet. Like I grew up, and probably you two did as well. Like I grew up in an era where it was common to read the city newspaper over breakfast, listen to radio news on your commutes, and then sit down over dinner time or just before dinner and watch the TV news broadcast. And that worked for a while and was a pretty stable system, good quality standards, but it was also quite rigid. You couldn't represent that many perspectives. There was sort of like official voice and official narrative. New voices had trouble breaking in unless they knew the right people. But then the internet came along and broke that model. And what has emerged in its place, or has become the dominant media system since, is this traditional social media system where, everyone gets a voice, but the power is still concentrated. And so people like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or the Chinese Communist Party have an outsized influence over how discourse and media and communication is working in our current world. But there's nothing to guarantee that is a system that gets to last forever. And I think what we're actually seeing now is that better systems are coming along that challenge that dominance.
I was thinking, though, that maybe sometimes the trade is that these big companies, they give you one thing, and that is reach. How do you see that?
Yeah, that's true. That like the social media systems are the most powerful media systems ever devised for distribution. And it comes with a pretty high cost, but it is a pretty good benefit. The high cost is that you're totally vulnerable to whatever decisions they make. And they might change their algorithm and wipe out your audience overnight. So Substack, we don't tell people that they shouldn't be on these platforms. You should be on these platforms building as much audience as you can, or we don't think it's bad if you are, but you shouldn't make yourself so vulnerable to them. And so the way to make yourself less vulnerable to them is to have your own corner of the internet where you're in control, where you own all the content and you own the audience relationships. And especially if you're making money through that audience, if the audience is paying you directly, then your relationship with those other distribution platforms changes. The power dynamic is different. They can become in service of you, helping you generate a general audience that you can then over time convert into a devoted audience where you have your power base on Substack or on a platform like Substack or with a model like Substack.
Yeah, because that was in your takeaway, right? The platform should be facilitating rather than mediating. I get that that is how Substack is doing it, but do you feel that the existing platforms should also make that shift?
I think the existing companies should make that shift, but they will not. They are held hostage by their business models. And their business model,
right.
Like I think in 20, 30, 50 years' time, we'll come to see their business models as a relic of this particular era of the internet. And that the next generation models will be ones that look a lot more like Substack.
Do you think Facebook will exist within the next 10 years? Or Instagram?
I think all those things, they'll probably exist, will be less relevant and effective. And there's a wild card of how AI is going to change all this stuff as well. So I don't know, the extent to which AI affects Facebook.
Yeah.
And how do you anticipate on this big unknown with Substack?
Do you mean with AI, the influence of AI?
Yes.
With Substack, I think AI is going to make it easier for anyone in the world to say what they really want to say in a high quality way. So it's going to help give you impressive powers of production. So what would have taken a TV studio to make 10 years ago will be easy to make within 10 seconds on your phone. And so that's going to be an interesting dynamic. And then the consumers are going to be able to choose what format they want to consume any piece of content. And if something arrives as an essay, they'll be able to click a button and say, actually give it to me as a video instead. That kind of stuff is just definitely going to happen. But I think a kind of really interesting effect is that it's going to increase the value of the human-to-human relationship. It's going to put a premium on knowing that there's a human on the other end of this cultural exchange you're having. And that is going to be really good news for the people who make their living sharing culture and creating culture for other humans.
And are you moderating any content on the platform itself?
Yeah, we have we have content guidelines that we enforce that prevent things like incitements to violence and spam and doxing. But unlike other systems, the system that Substack runs, which encourages a different type of behavior and a different type of content, which is based on nurturing relationships rather than maximizing impressions, that kind of system allows us to be a lot more hands-off in terms of deciding when to call in the referees to make a call on whether this is good or bad, or whether, this voice should be allowed and this voice shouldn't be allowed, so that we can really protect freedom of the press and uphold freedom of expression.
So anything can be said within the rules, but there was this case with the Nazi stuff. You probably are bothered with that for 100 times, but I'm just curious that how do you fight that? I mean, I'm not sure if I can talk to you about this, but here in the Netherlands, we look at the States that you really have a kind of crazy president right now who says some funny things. What is possible on your platform? And
you mean in terms of people like spreading fake news or...
Exactly. And it's so delicate.
Very delicate. It's a very complicated problem. Just a general, how do you protect discourse? Or how do you foster good discourse and minimize the harms from bad discourse?
Yeah.
Society has been struggling with this for a while now, but it's been particularly sharp in the last 10 years. From about 2016 onwards, there's been a huge concern about misinformation. But the way that we've, as a collective, been trying to solve these problems hasn't produced any good results, really, in the last 10 years. And our view is that there's been this obsession with trying to fix these problems with stronger content moderation. Just get better at content moderation. And Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everyone, they've invested billions of dollars in it. And they've hired tens of thousands of people around the world. They write these policy documents to more perfectly define what can be allowed and what cannot be allowed. But if you look at the Google Trends results for misinformation, it hasn't slowed down. It's not like
No.
all this effort hasn't really worked. And so our view is actually that the heavy-handed content moderation approach, which results in a bunch of censorship that shouldn't happen and a bunch of suppression of dissident voices that shouldn't happen, hasn't worked and is actually the wrong way to view this problem. So our way of viewing this problem, how do we make it so that good discourse wins and the bad effects from bad discourse are lesser, is to look at it from a systems point of view. What is the system you are creating? What does it reward? What does it encourage? What types of behaviors? And what does it kind of diminish? And we think that the Substack system is a pretty good approach to that, because what is monetized in Substack is trust relationships. Even if there's like the person who's publishing is just saying a bunch of stuff to the people who want to hear what they want to hear, that's much better than like shouting the most extreme thing you can in a timeline to grab attention so that you might get a share of advertising revenue at the end of it, or you might build a following that you convert into some sort of other gain economically. And so again, this system is like not utopian. There's not a perfect way. You can't stop people saying bad things in the world, but you can create a system that rewards different things.
Yeah.
I think we should move on to takeaway number 2, because we still have 2 left.
Yeah, okay, we can. So my second takeaway is that media owners should seek to support and not just own talent. They should invest in talent and help the talent build, and then share in the spoils as that talent goes on to succeed.
Why do you think this is necessary?
Well, I'm a big fan of traditional media. I have that background myself. I'm a former journalist.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Establish this up front.
We should have disclosed.
Yeah, like from high school, all I ever wanted to do was journalism. And then went and I edited the student magazine at my university. I did a master's degree in journalism and then worked in journalism in various jobs. And so I believe in traditional journalism, but I also recognize that the business model that has supported traditional media for 100 years or so, 200 years arguably, doesn't work anymore. It's destroyed, basically. And so I want the things that traditional media stands for: quality, ethics, standards, rigor, the funding of work that is really hard to do but is unsexy financially, deep investigative reporting, foreign. I want that to thrive in the world. But for as long as it's wedded to its existing model or vulnerable to the models of the traditional social media giants, it's not going to be able to make a shift. And so what I see with Substack is new land to build on. It's infrastructure, it's plumbing, it's electricity, it's transport, it's plots of land where the traditional media institutions can play as well. And that doesn't mean just take the newspaper that you already do or the radio show you already have and go and do it on Substack now, but it's to recognize Substack as new opportunity and new place to build. And you can create media products that are native to that land that can succeed and give you a different type of growth and a different type of opportunity.
Well, because what would that look like? Say you're doing a traditional TV show, like a documentary series kind of thing, or a human interest kind of thing, and you as a creator want to make that work on Substack too. You don't just put on the episodes, I'd imagine. Would it be like a behind the scenes kind of thing, or...
Yeah, there's lots of different options. So from the creator's point of view, if you own the TV show and you're running the TV show, that's your like skill, then you shouldn't abandon the TV show unless the audience has completely disappeared. But you should look to build a community around it. You could set up something on Substack and you have things that are not part of the official broadcast that are published on your Substack, and you're inviting people into a direct relationship, and there can be more of a conversation rather than just a direct broadcast. And that gives you some options for where to spin out from there. But I was actually like talking about it from the perspective of the media organization. How can they play in this new world? And I don't think they should stop what they're doing in traditional media land, but they should invest in building new media products on this new land. And they could perhaps build a constellation of them, not just one. And they could build them around independent voices or deep subject matter expertise, and do it in a way that makes sense for how people consume the internet in 2025. And maybe that's going to be small for a while. And maybe you need to carve off a special strike force or a special skunk works team in your company who's going to be like building for the future over here. But over time, that small thing, if you do it right, could get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can use the energy from the old thing to keep investing in the new thing until, one day you might wake up and realize that this thing you've built in the new land is actually bigger than the thing that existed in the old land. And that's all pretty abstract, but there are some pretty clear ways to start experimenting with that for existing media organizations.
So in your takeaway, you are the talent. You are the small new organization that knows.
No, I think so. If you're running, the two of you are employed by a larger media organization. Yeah. If you decide that actually you think you could have more success, you have more, maybe you're attracted by the editorial freedom, or you think you can make more money from direct subscriptions and Substack than you can by doing the thing you currently do at your media organization, then it might be really hard to stop you leaving. The media organization may not be able to pay you enough money to get you to turn down the opportunity of going independent. But what they could do is say, let's keep a good relationship. If you go over and start your Substack, we wish you the best and we'll actually help you get that started. We'll maybe invest in you so you don't have to worry about paying rent while you get your new business established. But we also we want to share in the benefits. We want something in return. Maybe we'll do a revenue share deal with you, or maybe you're going to let us promote to your mailing lists, or maybe we'll do events together. And then you're off building this new thing over in Substack. They have this strong connection to it. Maybe you even stay on staff there, but it's like you get to keep all the subscription revenue or like a good chunk of it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I have the idea that there was a time that we needed the big media companies.
Creators needed
the
big companies, but now it's 180.
Well, this is actually at the heart of this little aphorism, is that media owners of the future should be looking to support the talent and then sharing the benefits from their success rather than just owning it. And there are going to be a bunch of people, like a good chunk, who just prefer to be on a newsroom, have all the benefits of like in-house editorial support and all that. But there's also a way for those media organizations to invest in and support the talent who are going to build their own new organizations. And maybe they can still have access to the editing resources or access to legal support, that kind of thing. But it's more of a distributed model. The media organization starts to think more like a network than a newspaper or a radio station.
Yeah, I really like that approach. I hadn't thought about it that way, because we had a question here, like, that also sounds like quite a leap of faith to just start investing. And what if the creator is not going to make money or not enough money? Will there be a return of investment? But to look at it more like part of a network strategy and build a little bit there, or try to actually cooperate with your creators instead of being like, no, you're mine, you can't go anywhere, we fire you or you stay here. Because I think that's what's happening, right?
Traditional media has been in a defensive crouch for decades. I think in the Netherlands it might be a bit different, a bit healthier in the Netherlands. But the business has been eroded because of these forces that are out of their control, frankly. Like the internet is like the printing press in terms of its significance as a disrupting force. And so it's hard to get out of that defensive crouch. It's hard. It's hard to stand up and see what's on the horizon when there's
look for the opportunities
constantly playing over your head.
Yeah.
But part of what I'm trying to do is, because I believe in the media and I believe in journalism, I want journalism to have a bright future, is to say, come and hold my hand and I'll look at the horizon with me. I promise the bullets won't hit you, and that there is actually opportunity here. And what you don't need to do is destroy all the values that you had. What you do need to do is just look through a different lens. Try looking at it this way. And if the media organizations can think of them as being a support structure rather than just an ownership structure, then I think new things can suddenly start to look possible.
But the main goal is not to inform the people they want to make money, right? I mean, maybe that's the...
Well, it depends. There's going to be all sorts of media entrepreneurs who figure out how to build new networks in this way. But I could see a way to build a local news network where I'm the mothership company. I've got a bit of money to help people start new local news publications on Substack. I know the model works because I've already seen there are successful local news publications on Substack. I've got a playbook that I can give to these individuals who are starting local news publications in these various places. They can also have access to my marketing resources and the editors I have on staff. And those local news publications, they don't each need to make $10 million a year. They need to be able to support the person who's doing the important work there. Hopefully they can get successful enough to go and hire a couple of other reporters, but maybe they're going to be a little bit more atomized. Maybe it's not going to be like, the Amsterdam Times, but maybe there's going to be an Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce publication, an Amsterdam City Hall, Amsterdam the entertainment and dining sort of thing. And these things and then the consumers can choose to bundle them in the way they want. But if I am the media mothership for a constellation of local news publications like that, they could be seeking the truth and helping people understand their communities better, making a little bit of money. That's important because you need these things to be sustainable. But I don't need each one of them to make shitloads of money. I could have a portfolio and maybe each of them make some money, or some lose money and some make big money. And it works out as a media business for me than the organization that's supporting it.
I think it's a hopeful outlook, this. I like it.
I'm not sure yet, but that's it's because I tend to think that media should keep their own independence. And the moment that they're that they're part of a mothership organization,
let me be clear about that. I don't think that Substack should be the mothership. Substack should be the infrastructure that the mothership.
Yeah.
And so, the New York Times of the future might not be one giant newspaper. It might be a constellation of many New York Timeses out in the world that they can bundle together. If I see this this publication as part of the New York Times network, that says something to me. There's I know the New York Times has a really rigorous editorial policy. I know that they use real photographers. I know that they're verified that these are human reporters, not just an AI. So I think that's a way forward for the media system to continue to uphold the values that are important to good journalism while making it sustainable and allowing many more voices in and being able to cover subject matters and communities in greater depth than the old model allowed.
Yeah, I really hope this opens some windows in the minds of the Dutch media industry. Okay.
We have to go to the third takeaway.
Yeah. So my third takeaway is the most successful media organizations will monetize relationships, not impressions.
Yeah, I do think I have a question about this, because I've noticed once you get into the Substack system and you start subscribing to more and more people, and it's all very interesting. And at some point you have subscribed to 80 newsletters, and every day your mailbox is overflowing and you're like, okay, well, not this one. Let's see. And I notice people are trying to write more clickbaity headlines to reel you in. So I was wondering, could Substack collapse under its own success? We only have so much time, we only have so much money. How do you see that?
The overload problem is an opportunity, I think, in disguise. It's how do we help people make conscious decisions about what to feed their mind with, and then give them the tools to be able to filter those reading lists and viewing lists in a way that really makes sense for them at any given time.
But maybe it's more like how people are sometimes having a subscription overload with you have Disney Plus and Netflix and this, and maybe wasn't life easy when we just subscribed to one newspaper and we got all these journalists and columnists in one model. How do you feel about that?
Again, I feel that it's opportunity. So at the moment, though, the major challenge for Substack is to get people to subscribe to one publication, one Substack.
Just one.
And then the next one will be, can we get them to subscribe to two? There are some media nerds like us who have a painful number of subscriptions that shows up in the bank account. One, I think that's good because good culture and good journalism, good media has historically been undervalued by the market. People have been not paying enough to get good media relative to its importance in our world and how it shapes our minds and how it shapes who we are as people and how we work together as society. So having some correction there is good. On the other hand, it can get a little bit out of control for the media nerds or for the power subscribers. And that presents interesting questions about how you might find ways to make it more financially palatable. And maybe the writers and the publishers, the creators themselves sort of band together to offer like subscriptions to discounts to each other as part of a kind of humble bundle type of approach. Or maybe there are some things that Substack can do one day at the platform.
Like a super user premium all in something.
Something like that. Or yeah, maybe something like that. But there are ways to do bundling where the math makes sense so that it's a good deal for the publishers, for the consumers, and for the platform. And one thing you just want to be careful of is that you don't sacrifice that fundamental thing at the heart of Substack, which is the publisher has a direct relationship with their audience. So if we could do it in a way that it's not like you're subscribing to Netflix or you're subscribing to Spotify and then Netflix and Spotify decides who gets to win, pay a certain amount of money and that gives you as a consumer the agency to still make the careful selections and contributions to the publications that you care most about, then that could be a win-win-win.
Final question. Well, we need a scoop, Hamish. So are you planning to disrupt the media industry in any other way with a very disruptive feature in Substack that we don't know of, but that you're working on right now and that will blow our minds?
You can soft launch it in this podcast.
No, I think we're trying to build a new economic engine for culture that is based on a fundamentally different system than traditional social media and traditional media. And I think we're only at the beginning of what can be possible with that new system. And so we've seen what it can do for people who write. We are only just beginning to see what it can do for people who make video. And video is a large category. It might be someone talking into their phone like a TikTok style video. It could be someone making prestige television and movies. And I think there's a future where, we've gone from paying for cable news to paying for Netflix. Like, is there a different future where you might pay for the creators you trust the most and value the most, independent of whether they're on Netflix or wherever on cable news? And just if you start to think about the possibilities of a model like that, then things can get really big and exciting. So we'll just keep pushing down those paths. We don't have any bombshells to drop right now, but I think it's a long journey, and we've seen just the beginning of it so far.
So thank you. Super premium Substack bundle. Let's see when it comes out.
Yes.
Okay, Hamish, thank you very much.
Thank you
for all your info and the insights.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks, and thanks for your curiosity. Thanks for your questions, and thanks for hearing my wild ideas about the future of media.
Loved it. Thank you. Dat was hem. Je luisterde naar 3 Takeaways, de podcast. Daarin hoor je mediapioniers over de 3 dingen die je volgens hen moet weten om klaar te zijn voor de toekomst.
En onze gast was Hamish McKenzie, co-founder van Substack. Deze podcast wordt gemaakt door ons, Jolien van de Griendt en Merlijn Passier.
En die maken we in opdracht van MediaCampusNL. Wil je nou vaker inside info over waar de mediapioniers in ons vak mee bezig zijn? Abonneer je dan op deze podcastfeed, zodat je geen aflevering hoeft te missen.
Voor nu rest ons dan alleen nog de vaste disclaimer. Deze podcast is geheel AI-vrij, behalve de tune, want die maakten we met Suno.